What's up everyone, Steven here from Techmaker.tv. In this episode, I'm going to show you how to add images and image uploading to your applications with active storage. This is going to be a pretty simple example, so you should be able to follow along even if you haven't been following along with the series. But this is actually the 11th episode in a series that we're doing on building out a note-taking application from scratch. If you want to see the entire series, I'll link to it down in the description. It's over on our website at techmaker.tv. But we're basically going to be adding image uploading to this page so that you can essentially add rich text and images after this episode. In the episode after this, we're going to add drag and drop so that you can drag and drop and sort these things. We're going to add checklists after that. So setting up active storage is actually pretty straightforward. So what we need to do is go over to our terminal, and I'm going to stop my server, and I'm going to run a couple of commands here. So I'm going to say Rails active storage install : install. So we'll run this, and this is going to generate some files for us. And then we're going to run Rails DB migrate, which should actually set up a couple of database tables that active storage depends on. So let's go check that out. That didn't really look like it did anything, and I'm wondering if I had already done it actually. But in any case, we'll look at what I think that we may have done that actually when we set up rich text, because rich text probably depends on it. And you can see that here actually. So this was generated by that command. So if you haven't been following along and you just want to set up active storage, then you would need to run that, but I had already done it, I think. I'm trying to think back, that was several episodes ago, but that looks like that is the case. So anyway, so we're already set up then. So now what I want to do is set up a new model. And the way that this works on the front end is essentially we have this note object, or a page object actually, and then we're adding elements to it. And I have some reasons for why I'm doing it that way. You could do this a number of ways. You could set this up where you actually drag images into the actual rich text, but that's not really what I'm looking to do. My server's not running, so it just kind of crashed on me. But what I'm going to do here is generate a model, and I'm going to call it an image element. So what we need to do now is say page references, and that's about it actually. So essentially this is an object that doesn't really have any attributes, because it's going to essentially be a holder for an actual image that's going to be stored in those other tables that were generated before. So let's go ahead and run our migrations here if you're following along, and just kind of get that done, and then let's go jump back over to the code. So if we go back over here and we open up the new image element class, we can essentially say in order to add an image, all we have to do is say has one attached image. Now you could call this whatever you want. You could call this has one attached anything. It doesn't really matter. It's just that's what the attribute is going to be called, and I'm going to call it image in my case. Now the way that that works has to do with the database tables that were generated. So if you go down into the database folder, the DB folder, and look at the last, well, if you just ran that, it'll be your last migration, but in my case it's going to be this one up here for active storage tables. So you'll see down here in the active storage attachments table that there's this T references record polymorphic true. Now there's a little bit of stuff going on here where you have this record type and record ID. So I'm not going to go super deep into what's going on, but you just need to know that these tables can be referenced from essentially any class. So when you say has one attached image, your data for that is going to end up stored in those tables. And so that's called a polymorphic join table if you want to look that up. But essentially it allows you to use the same concepts of this file attachment thing in any of your active record classes. So if we want to get this working, we need to go over to our routes, and I've got this nested resources thing going on here. So I'm just going to put this down under paragraphs. So I'm going to say resources image elements, And then I need to create a controller for this, so I'm going to come up here and create one called image elements controller.rb, and then we'll say class image elements controller, and we'll inherit from application controller. And it looks like I actually didn't put the R in my file name, so let me delete that and put it back. New file, image elements controller.rb, image elements controller. Put that in there. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to look over at my pages controller. No, not pages, paragraph controller. So if we look in here, the only ones that are really in use right now are the create and update, and they've got quite a bit in common with what I'm about to be doing. So I'm going to copy these two things and then edit them to sort of match my needs. So notebook is current use. So first of all, I don't need like instance variables for any of this. So notebook is current user, notebook's fine params, notebook ID. Same thing with page. And then what I'm going to do is actually say page.imageElements.create. And I'm going to open up a page, and I'm going to make sure that it has many image elements. Image elements. And then we'll redirect to the notebook page path with notebook and page. I'm going to do some refactoring soon and clean a lot of this code up, so if you want to see that, check it out over on the website, because I'll be posting all of those and some more just work session kind of stuff. Notebook, page, you know, we might actually do those in like before action, so maybe it would be useful to have them in instance variables, but for now I think that's probably fine like it is. So the one big difference here is this is first of all an image element, so we'll say page.imageElements.find. What we're going to do here is say image elements dot image, so it's image element dot image dot attach, and then I'm going to pass in a params image like that. And actually, let me think about this. So maybe this should be image element params image, something like that. And then we can redirect, and I'm going to go ahead and take away the notice because it's going to be kind of obvious. And there really is no edit per se, so redirecting there wouldn't make much sense, but I'll handle that in a little bit. I just want to kind of get this hooked up and working. Okay, so let's see what we need to do next. Okay, so let's go look at the pages show, and let's look at what we have here. So we have this form with model, so on and so forth, and you can see here we have an @paragraph instance variable. So let's go ahead and check out our pages controller here, and I'm gonna add a new instance variable image element, and it's going to be @page.imageElements.build. And then what I'm going to do is put these two things in a div together. The class doesn't really matter. This is because we're using this deflex above. We need these things to be inside of a single element if we want them grouped together. And I'm going to just copy this exactly, and I'm going to say image element, and then I'm going to say form submit add image, and we'll leave that as is. Okay, so let's see what this looks like on the front end. So let's go restart our server, and then let's jump back to the browser. And if we refresh, so I don't hate the way that looks weirdly. I'm going to change it. They'll be in line at some point, but right now it's okay. Actually, what I'm going to do is make it so that these are all like an icons bar at the top. So you click on like some icon that represents a paragraph and a new paragraph gets added, so on and so forth. But let's go back, and now what we need to do, so eventually we're going to need to mix all of these things up, right? So eventually we'll have not just paragraphs and images separated, but we'll have them all in a group so that you can sort them, mix and match. But for now, we actually need to render the images below here because we don't have that built out yet. So I'm just going to say at page.imageElements.each do image element. Okay, let me go ahead and end that, and then inside of here, let's just kind of get something basic working. So I'm going to say if image element dot image dot present else. Okay, so what we want to do is say if our image is present, let's just print the image out in an image tag. So we'll say image tag image element dot image, and then below here let's add a form. And so what we can do is actually add this form here, and then we will, hold on, let me cut this and paste it, and then I'll fix my syntax highlighting. So we don't need this form for rich, or this rich content thing. Obviously what we need is a form.file field, and we want it to be for an image, and then we'll have a save button and then the cancel button I'm not sure about. We'll just comment that out for now. So let's see what this does. This may work, it may not, and in its current form. So I'm going to click add image, and so now let's see what's happening here. Well, you can see here that well, there's a couple things I did wrong. So first of all, I need to make sure that the image is persisted. So we're getting an empty image element showing up, and that's just because of the way I loaded it. If image element dot persisted, I messed up something with the nesting there, I feel like. If that else, yeah, so that needs to actually be tabbed in. Okay, so let me go back and check this now. So now we should only have the one. So it is rendering our form. What I did wrong here is you see this equal sign, so we don't actually want to print out this, the looping part of it. So what's happening is like it's doing the work, and then at the end it's printing out the data that it looped through because we had that equal sign. So we just want that. I've also got this butting up right against the bottom of the page, and I'm going to go ahead and make the, I guess so I need to do this in the actual application layout. Sorry, this is just bothering me a little bit, so I'm going to fix it. Container, I'm going to do PB5. So now I have a little bit more space at the bottom of the screen. So okay. So I'm going to choose a file. Let's just grab this picture of New York and save it and see what happens. So it looks like undefined local variable or method image element params. Okay, yeah, I think I did forget to do that actually. Okay, so image element params, we'll say params.require image element dot permit, and then I'm gonna say image, like that. And so that's gonna make this work, this image element params image. So let's go back to our browser and let's just do a quick refresh and then choose a file, same file, open it, save it, and now we have an image. There you go. So I'm gonna do a couple of small styling tweaks here while I'm doing this right now, and I've got a good amount of work left to do on this that I'm gonna kick over into a deeper work session. So I'll post that on the website. Again, if you want to check out the full series, I'll put a link down in the description. Or you can just go to our website, techmaker.tv, and check that out. But what I want to do is go over here to our show page and let's look at what we did at our paragraph. So essentially I want to get all this stuff lined up right. So we have this div class text content and we're giving it a padding of 4 and a margin bottom of 2, and again that's bootstrap stuff. So let's go ahead and just set that up and we'll call it image content. We'll also do the P4 and MB2, and then I'm just gonna grab all of this, tab it in, cut it, and paste it up here. And that's not what I wanted to do. I want to get rid of that. Okay, so now let's go check out what this looks like. So if I refresh, you can see that it kind of bumps in line right there. So the next thing I want to do is actually say, okay, let's go over to our, what CSS do we have? We have this notebook CSS. So I'm just going to add a little bit here where I say image content, and we're going to say, well, first I want to center it. So I want to say text align center the image, and then I actually want to squeeze it in just a little bit, and I'm going to say image, and I'm going to make a couple of things here. So I'm going to say, well, let's do max width is 80%. And let's see what this looks like if we go back and refresh. So hopefully it's smaller and centered. Okay, so that's kind of what I was anticipating. Now the very last thing I'm going to do, and this is more just a stylistic thing overall, is I'm going to make everything squeezed in just a little bit more. That's just something I kind of want to do. You don't have to do this if you're following along and you like it the way that it is. But what I want to do is say div class equals col md10 offset md1, and actually I'm going to make that LG because I think on medium screens it probably looks good as it is, if I have to guess. And then I'm going to literally get everything, tab it in, cut it, and paste it right here. And let's see what this looks like. So now it's bumped in better. Now what I don't like actually is I don't want this H3 in there. So I'm going to put that back at the top. So I kind of like that aligned with the breadcrumbs and stuff. So now it's more like kind of in the middle. So what I may do, and I'm not 100% sure yet, is I may make something that looks kind of like a page around this. In the end, this top bit right here is going to look a little bit more like a toolbar. And I may actually put this breadcrumb in a bar up here under. I've kind of got to work out a little bit more of a solid design. Right now I'm kind of just doing everything on the fly, off the cuff, however you want to say that. I'm just kind of making it up as I go. Before we finish this series, I'm going to sit down and actually really put a design together. It'll be pretty similar because I don't want to do anything radical where I have to redo everything, but it'll at least look a little bit more professional when we're done. But it's not looking bad right now. So anyway, I think that's about it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, give me a thumbs up. And definitely subscribe to the channel if you want more content like this. And again, if you want to see this whole series from front to back, go check us out on techmaker.tv or just go down in the description and I'll link straight to the series.